Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quick call.
Roll.
Yeah.
Okay. Page.
Here.
Valley.
Here.
Painter.
Here.
Ruli Bogus.
Present.
Wolfersberger.
Here.
Grant.
Yes.
Cummings. I think she's on there. There's Nicholas, but
Well, we are through roll call. We have no proclamations tonight. I'm gonna jump into public comment. If you're here for public comment, make sure you've signed in with your address and names, and then I will give you an opportunity to speak if you're here for public comment. If not, we'll just keep moving on.
Sheets back here, there's two of us on there. Somebody signed in ahead of me.
So you can just go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we need that for the minutes too.
Somebody signed in ahead of me, I don't know who it was.
Yeah, but he's fine.
He's here or something else, yeah.
Yeah,
This is the first time I get to go.
We're not quite
I've
like-
won tonight.
we're not as.
I can get that at home. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Stan Harper, Ogden. I spent the last 10 and a half, almost 11 years on Champaign County Board. That was a pleasure, folks. But anyway, born and raised here, farm out here and everything else. So I know a lot of people around here. I'm here to talk to you about pulling your protest on the zoning issue. There's a lot of things happening up there. In fact, I called Aaron Esri and John Farney, who are the new district reps for this area, District 3. But anyway, I listened in on a lot of testimony on the wind farm or one to put into my file. Went to all the testimony meetings, took hundreds of phone calls, got on board. Nobody wanted this thing. Champaign County has the most stringent setbacks of any county in the state. When they did this, the one northeast of me went in. The new wind farms, they wanted unlimited height, which most of them now are 500 foot. There's rumor out they want to go to 800 foot, huge megawatt ton or outputs. But nobody wanted it. We're in rural farm, we're in prime farm ground here, folks. Vote by the zoning board was 7-0 to go along with the constituents in that area, which is great. From the zoning board, it goes to ELUC, which is Environmental Land Use Committee. Never took action on it. They never bring it to a vote, which I went to those meetings also. And you can imagine my mood after that. Now they've gone in and replaced 3 zoning board members because they're not yes people. John Hall has come out here and promised you this and everything else. He can't back those promises up, folks. I've said in enough meetings, these wind and solar farms come in and they're going to ask for a waiver. When they ask for that waiver, it's just a simple majority, which means 12 votes. When there's a protest, they need 17 votes, which they can't get. It's 16-6 the way that board's set right now. And they live in town, they're grad students. They do not care what happens in this rural area. I'm going to be very blunt. We need to stick together that night of the meeting. This is a fight that needs to be fought to protect rural Champaign County. I've talked to Chapin Rose. He's upset because that bill that Governor Pritzker promised he would never infringe on local zoning rights. Middle of the night, he signed a bill. You can bet there was money changed hands. They have their own setbacks by the state, which is 1.1 of the tower height. So if you got a 500-foot tower, that thing could be 550 foot from your back door. Just think about it. I had a retired Champaign police chief, Don Carter, called me several times. He bought acreage southeast of Philo. He wanted the peace and quiet, lived there for about 15 years, I believe he sold me. His wife suffers from migraines. And if you've never been around him, that flicker effect is there. Justin Learcamp, who organized the people, he lives south of Sydney, organized that group to fight this. He farms into Douglas County, right where that one is. They shoved that one through. Roads haven't been fixed. Drainage hasn't been fixed. And if you farm out here, drainage is a huge issue. So I'd like the village, and we're starting, Steve and I have talked, I don't know if you know Steve Welch here. There's rumor another wind farm's coming down Windsor Road. Their trucks are running around. I've done a little checking, so they're going to be coming. And the reason they're doing this in Central Illinois and North is the infrastructure. Southern Illinois, those guys down there would love to have the money they're talking about. But the infrastructure's here. All your substations and the way they can hook on and transfer is how they're attacking this. And you're talking prime farm ground all across Central Illinois. So if we don't do something as a rural area, and I will be talking to other village boards, I'm going to get the townships involved. We're getting a group together and start fighting this. And I would really hope that St. Joe, the village, would reconsider your protest. Because if we don't have that, if that no protest, because Larry Franks, LR's called me several times, he's very upset. He was at that meeting that night. I know Jim Goss and Chapin are going to be talking to Sean and Muhammad. But I'm going to be going to some other villages saying, think about this. Because they're worried right now because the state's got their new statute, their statutes. So everybody has to fall in line. That's wrong. There's no way anybody in Springfield or Chicago can tell us what to do with our property. No way at all. Well, our group up here in Champaign County is so worried about lawsuits. No, let them sue us. Like Chapin said, we'll file counter suits. This is completely wrong. Cash under the hand, under the table, and now in the middle of the night, they signed this bill. I think it was Bill 4412, I can't remember the number. But just here to say, think about it. Because there's going to be more and more of these solar wind farms coming in. And I know the villages, any village, wants their protection. We fought that one, that little one that was going to go over there by the sportsman's club. It's never happened, but you're concerned. We talked then about possible expansion that way for the village. So I think everybody needs to think about it. Again, Tammy has my contact information. I'm an old farmer. I'm as old as her husband. We went to high school together.
You guys are old.
Yeah, we are. And I'll be a year older on Saturday. But anyway, I thank you for your time and consideration. Please, anybody has any questions, like I said, Stan Harper out of Lawson.
I got a question for you. Are the ground that these are being placed on, are the farmers going ahead and going along with that? Or are they being bought commercially with?
What they're doing is, and I know I have a friend from Gibson City that works for this Apex out. He's a retired farmer. And they're paying good money to go out and get leases signed. Well, the thing to do first is get absentee landowners. That's how they're sneaking in these areas. Like I said, I went to 5 testament zoning meetings where just the zoning board and the people in that area and anybody else, they gave testimony. Not one person wanted it, whether they farm or not. And I farm, and we have to have aerial application on some things. Well, some of these dust cropping outfits won't fly in these wind farms. And if they do, you're going to pay for it because their liability is going up so much. So,
Of course, when Rudy Frask was still alive, he used to fight every tower, everything.
yeah,
You know, isn't there a kind of an entity that would pick up that cause for aviation?
I don't know that answer. I'd be glad to do some checking with the county if there is.
Well, I know Rudy, anytime there was a tower, no matter how much it was, because the guy that I was on part of the plane with, his son worked for a radio station. They were putting a tower, and he said, "Well, I'll go talk to Rudy." Rudy was against any of that, and I don't know I would think you could talk to them and just say, "How do you go ahead and progress that through in the aviation?" That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, that's a great one. I'll do that.
Okay.
Because I just don't feel that these companies are gonna back up. I have a very good friend north of me that has a tower. One of those first ones went in Vermillion and the northeast part of this county. Something happened to the turbine, they had to come in and work on it. They tore up beams. It took them almost 3 years to everybody's paid me for the damage. It's in the contract, we paid it. The original company that put that in, and it's still called California Ridge, it sold. Well, I see Mark sitting there. I don't know how you make these outfits abide by the contracts, but I don't trust them. I don't trust anybody from Springfield. And I'm wanting local control in this is what I'm asking for. So anyway, thanks I probably went over my 5 minutes.
All right, thank you,
I
Stan.
might go next door and create a tax holiday for the village. Thanks, Tammy. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Like I said, if you got any questions, call me.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
If you need me to help Stan with the tax, raising the tax dollars, I'm happy.
I know Mark. I know his brother, Red. Thanks, everybody.
I'm gonna, we have our consent agenda items with the minutes, treasurer's report, it's all listed there. We're gonna, also included in that is the MFT resolution and the 2 bond abatement ordinances, that we need for the tax levy. And I think Joe will give each one of you an explanation on why we have to do that. It's mostly procedural. I mean, we always have done that. Otherwise you, would levy for those, bonds, which we don't do. So, if you guys have any questions, you can go and ask them, but otherwise I'll take a motion to, approve the consent agenda.
I do have a question. I think Joe and I talked about it. If we didn't act on that, your property taxes would rise, correct? But we already have a funding source.
We already have the revenues sufficient to pay back the debt.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Page. Allen.
Yeah.
Painter.
Yeah.
Wolfersberger.
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
5-0.
Next we'll go on down to new business. And, first item is approval. We have been so generously, offered a gift of property, and I spoke with each one of you individually just to kind of give you a heads up on that. My understanding that is moved along and you guys have already signed papers or ready to sign papers?
I have papers in my possession that would get recorded tomorrow if you decide to accept the gift. And so it's a done deal. And that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, so yes, Baptist Church has offered to gift us their church building. And their pastor is retiring. And so we've talked to them numerous times and they would like to give it to the community. Our thoughts are that it will make a wonderful village hall along with space for community purposes. So it'll be a nice area for hosting anything from senior citizens to birthday parties. And so I think we can move, my thoughts are that we'll move all of Village Hall to that property. We can all be under one roof. So anyway, it's a very generous offer for the village. It's got some nice parking there and some additional ground there, so there's room for addition over time if we need further expansion. So anyway, is there any questions on that or thoughts on that? I spoke with the family, and I would like, if you guys approve this, to have a special time set up when we make it officially with them. Because I really want to show our appreciation to the church and the pastor there for thinking of us to donate that property to the village. So we can set that time up with them between now and whenever. So anyway, if there's no questions, is there a motion?
So you would then completely vacate this building?
Yes.
Everything there, right, and then this building would be available for
Yes, we would
rent out
probably,
other businesses, whatever.
yeah, we would probably sell it to.
Or you don't even sell it.
Yeah.
Just rent it.
So that's the thought at this moment. Of course, those will be further discussions down the road there, but that would probably be our intentions, is to vacate this building. And what I like about that is it is still close enough to the downtown that it's easy access to the community. So anyway, any other questions or thoughts?
Do we need a motion to accept the gift?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the gift.
I'll second.
Let's include in the motion, what's the street address of it? Joe?
Main Street.
Really quick.
Yeah. Yeah, and two. Or something.
I conveniently don't have that file with me.
And I know, and I said we,
Lori, I put in here to say, make a motion to accept position real estate from the Faith Missionary Baptist Church.
That's all I did, my phone, that was a church.
Okay, so it's 407.
I was thinking it was for something, but.
Right, yeah.
Actually, I should have that memorized, that's my street address.
And I'm sure, what's the name of the church?
Faith Missionary Baptist Church is what I saw.
I'll reread. I'll reread Mr. Rapp's
Thank you.
motion.
Okay,
I think your motion was to approve the acceptance of the gift of 407 South Main, St. Joseph, Illinois, by the Faith Missionary Baptist Church as presented.
just the way I stated it.
Painter second.
I second.
Natalie,
Yes.
Painter, Wolfersberger.
Yes.
Rapp,
Yes,
Page. I vote.
I'll let the lawyer for the church know tomorrow morning, and then he'll give me permission to go ahead and get it recorded. So I'm kind of holding it as the middle person. And you're.
Right, thank you. So the next thing we have on our new business is our economic development update. And Jim is here to give us that report.
Pleasure to see everybody again tonight. Happy holiday. There's several new faces.
that's, yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, appreciate that. My name is Jim Arndt, the president and CEO of Arndt Municipal Support, located in Charleston, Illinois. For some of you guys who don't know me, I've been working with the village now off and on for the last year or so. Economic development, though, is what we're working on now for the last 3 months. Per the agreement and also per the strategic plan, we're to give an update every 3 months on our activities for economic development for the village. And As I mentioned to the group before, economic development is a marathon, but we have hit the ground running. And we've been running pretty steady too for the last 3 months. Joe and I have made a trip up to Chicago, went up to the IPSC conference, spoke to multiple retailers up there about St. Joseph. And really, as I mentioned to them, it's almost like an emerging market. Just introducing the marketplace, introducing the available real estate properties, and basically saying, hey, we're here to play. We're in the game now. And seeing the other communities there and making sure that St. Joseph is noticed for being present. So we really had a good show up in Chicago. Afterwards, we came back, reached back out to those companies just to reconnect, and also continuing to reach out to different retailers that weren't even there at the show. Those I know who are active in the region, the marketplace, just to say, hey, what's your interest in St. Joseph? This is what we have available, that type of thing. Really marketing your available commercial properties that you have now. Also speaking to the property owners in St. Joseph who own commercial properties, who through Joe or the mayor, that I've become aware that they're interested in potentially maybe reselling their facility they have now or repurposing their facility. And now I just became aware that there's another facility that we can market in St. Joe. We're standing in it right now too. This is really a hot area, the downtown area. The downtown area has received a lot of interest, as well as, of course, the area up there along the interstate. So that's kind of my key focus right now. One of the major breakthroughs I think we had was a retailer who's expressed interest. We met with them in Chicago. I followed back up with them. We got back. Yep, we got you approved. We just got to find a site. So now they're looking for a site, and they do have one property. They're working on the contract on one property now, but they're also looking at additional properties just in case they can find a better site. So we see progress is coming quickly already, which I figured it would. This is going to be the low hanging fruit type of thing. But now we'll also have, as the next item on the agenda, we do have an interested hotel flag that's interested in St. Joseph. They just have some due diligence they want the village to proceed with before they will do any commitments. But we'll talk about that in the next agenda item. So seeing some traction there. Also seeing some traction from two different restaurants about St. Joseph. And one of the exciting things I thought was we had a meeting. It's actually in this quarter, because it's this month. But we had a meeting with the residential developers, two. Over in Champaign about St. Joseph and looking at potential future projects here in St. Joseph, and it just aligned well, Madam Mayor, with the strategic plan and with the over 55 housing, and it was just almost like they sat in that meeting, with us as we did the strategic plan. This is just really coming together. It was like a carnival, which I really appreciated that. And Joe probably got tired of saying that. I kept telling them over and over again, yes, that's the strategic plan. Yes, this is what they want in the strategic plan, because it was like they just were reading the plan to me, which was fantastic. But on your sheet there you have in front of you, just kind of highlighted the goals, why we're doing what we're doing. Goal E, economic development, to actively pursue and support commercial, office, and industrial development in the village. Commercial development, yes. Office development, yes. In fact, I spoke to a person who's looking to do some office development here in the village just a couple weeks ago as well. So that's moving along too. Industrial, I've not had anything done with that yet. Objective E1, to actively pursue and support commercial, office, and industrial development in the village. We just talked about that. Objective E4, recruit and support commercial industrial development on the north and south side of I-74. We really pushed that area hard, especially the south side of I-74, over up in Chicago. Housing, as I just mentioned, I thought it was a fantastic meeting. Pursue residential housing development in the village. Develop relationships with empty nesters, 55 and up housing developers. That's basically what we're doing. And to construct a senior living community within the village. And then we talked about that. I thought the meeting went really, really well. Vision alignment. We're a village where people come to the school, staying for community and friends. That came up during that meeting. In fact, we didn't bring up that vision, but it was actually told to us when they talked about what St. Joseph was. They talked about the importance of the school again, and that people came for the school. So it was just, again, it's like they were part of that meeting. This meeting is what is required by the strategic plan. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Looking down, activities of the last quarter, 48.25 hours is what I put into it. That's not including, calls with Joe or let's look at this, have you thought about this? This is basically active work, the 48.25 hours. Joe and I, for off and on, we probably talk 3 or 4 times a day. That's not including that time. This is time actively put towards economic development. We go to the village at the Chicago ICSC retail conference. We talked about that already. I won't read all this, but just in a nutshell, to use the vernacular that was used earlier, we've really hit the ground running. We're making inroads. We're being present. I've already booked room out there in Vegas for the show in May to be present out there as well. And that's gonna be the bigger one. So basically, Chicago is your small show, Vegas is your big show, and you'll have multiple, you have more retailers there, more restaurants there. And just to be able to be present there, just to continue to follow up the context we made in Chicago as well. Just again, if you don't be noticed by your absence, you'll be noticed by your presence. And when you're out there walking with the other cities, and you wonder why they have things, it's because they're there. It's because they're trying and they're active. And you guys are trying and you're active, you're present. Do you have any questions for me? The activity of the last 3 months? I know I use a lot of generalities, but you guys all should get copies of my reports that has more specifics, but I try to use generalities in public.
Well, a couple points I would just mention, because it's been good to make sure that people know that St. Joe is a viable market. They almost had a sense of shock, I think, in some cases. They didn't know, almost like, why aren't we in these communities already type of attitude. Remember, we talked to some
Well, yeah, to add to that, that was my attitude to what I did too. I said, I don't know why you're not here. When I did my windshield tour, you're missing. That was 2 national chains. I just told them, basically, flat out, you're missing. Why are you not here? What do you mean we're not there? We're not there? No, you're not there.
So this is important for us to market ourselves, because some of the property owners aren't. And so that's been good, just to shine a light on what we have to offer. One thing I do want to point out is since St. Joe has had significant development, costs have really increased dramatically. And so developers are considering their increased costs that they're going to have any type of project built here. So just, I'm going to put it on your radar that these costs are pretty astronomical that they're seeing. So that's just an extra challenge that we're running into, but we're still getting a lot of good excitement and things like that. But anyway, don't need to.
No, you're perfectly fine. That's some context to it, and that's one of the reasons why I met with the county and the state just to figure out what the role is. What the role is going to be for St. Joe, how much they're going to play into that role, what resources are available through them that we could tap into that might not be tapped into now. I know you guys are in the process of working on your first TIF, which is fantastic, which has come up in multiple conversations, and also. I brought to their attention the state that I believe that the enterprise zone will be good here for the village. Now that's going to take some work. I have to do some work follow up on that to figure out what the next steps are. I did talk to them about grants, especially for the next item, the hotel feasibility study. There's none available until later this spring. Joe and I talked about that. We believe that it might be better to strike while the iron's hot.
If there's no additional questions, we can go on to the next item here. That's all right with you, Mayor?
Yep. No further questions. All right. The next item is the discussion on the hotel feasibility study. So maybe I'll be guys lead into that conversation.
I can give you some context on that. When I was over in Kansas City at a different conference, I noticed a hoteler there that was promoting themselves a flag to the Missouri Municipal League. And so I thought that's strange to have a hotel chain at a municipal league. So I thought, why not St. Joe? So I walked up to them and said, hey, I'm working with the village in rural Illinois. And they said, that's perfect. That's where we want to go. We want to go to rural communities. That's our focus. So we talked about that. We talked about some obstacles that would be in the way. Illinois is a challenging state for them due to the tax codes, but it's not impossible. They do have one down in Altamont, it's not too far away from us here now. So we talked through that a little bit. They gave me the contact for Illinois. Reached out to her multiple times, talked to her a few times. She was actually on maternity leave, so it was kind of, phone taggish type of thing. But once I did have a good conversation with her, she was interested. She did believe that it fit their mission for their hotel. But their first step in due diligence is they require the communities to do a hotel feasibility study. Talked to her about that. She gave me some brokers that they've used in the past that have provided those for communities in the past. Reached out to the one that's in front of you here, talked to them in depth about Champaign County, about the community. She was aware of it, the community. She's aware of Champaign County. Then I actually talked to, got the price, got the proposal, as you see, which was, I believe, 15,000. I talked to Joe about that, and his immediate reaction was, no, don't worry, let's see if we can get resources. So I went off to Champaign County to meet with them about potentially tapping into any type of economic development funds they have for studies. They said they do not have that, but the state might have something opening up in the spring for tourism related studies. So talked to Joe about that as well. Reached back out to her again, talked to her about, was there a cost share option where, the village, will give X if you give Y type of thing, meet in the middle. They said they cannot do that because it's there's a pro forma involved with that, and that would be a conflict of interest because they want, that they were investing in the pro forma that they're gonna get their investors to fit into. But she did say that what they've done with other communities, if it is built, there's the big if it is built, because of course this is just the beginning of the due diligence. If it is built, they could put in that agreement to reimburse the village for the cost of the study. That's only if it's built. There's no guarantees at this point.
So, basically what we're asking you to consider, and like I always say, if you want to take some time and sit and think about it, you're more than, please do that. However, what I would like for you to, I guess, really focus on is that, these entities are talking about investing a lot of capital in the community. There's a lot of risk there. And what they're basically asking for is what it requires to have conversation with a lot of these different entities. And it wouldn't just be a tool that's exclusive to one hotel. It's also something that can be marketed to multiple hotels. So it's basically something that if this one wouldn't work out, you can take to multiple as well in the future too. So if you have any questions about this, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to it.
I would just say that, I shared this with Champaign County. They also stated that they believe there's room for additional hotels in Champaign County. They provided me the STARS data report. I went through that STARS data report. It shows you basically occupancy rates, throughout the months and the years. And there is availability, but it's not for me to say it. If they want a professional to look at it and give them data, they're going to rely on to make that investment.
So I guess we'll open it up. Do you have any questions, comments, discussion?
I got a couple. I was looking at the hotel feasibility study and occupancy rates on different ones. What should the target be? I know you can't get 100%. I mean, you can, but it'd be a double renting rooms and one thing and another. But what would be the threshold for a community? What would the hotel be looking for?
Not a hotel bar, not played one on TV, but I have talked to them in the past.
Okay.
60%.
65. And another thing, in all your conversations with different businesses, there's national chains and all that, how receptive are they to coming to Illinois?
Most of the chains that we're talking to already have places in Illinois.
Okay.
They're very receptive. This was the only one that I got that strange feedback from, but they do have two flags in Illinois now.
Okay. Well, I just didn't know if other You know, doesn't necessarily be hotel, but anything, but
They,
are they just listening or, I mean, cause you read a lot of things where different businesses don't want or apprehensive
no,
about locating.
the ones that we're talking to, they have multiple locations in all.
Okay.
Except there is one, and that was the way my mind works, it's, you know, the interstate out there is, it's fertile. I mean, it's there for development. And I even drove in on the interstate intentionally, just kind of see what it looks like at night, you know, and what's there, what's not there. So what I like to do when I do my travels, when you guys all travel, we all travel, I'm not nothing unique, but I like place I can get gas, place I can lay my head down and eat, right? So it's a trifecta. So I can pull off, get gas, something to eat, go to sleep. So that's a good interstate community, right? And so if you pull off here, there's no immediate gas when you come off the interstate. There's no place to sleep when you come off the interstate, but you can eat, which is great. Then you come into town, but for me, I don't know if you guys do this or not, but if I can't see it, I don't know it's there. Right? So I can see the sign that says Casey's display, but if I can't see it, I don't know it's there. So I want to be able to see it for that safety factor. And so that's why I told the hotel, so you've got to be right there. I mean, that's a great location out there, right off the interstate, and that will bring people off. And that's gonna be hotel motel tax dollars for you, plus sales tax. And if the hotel comes, you get more restaurants. It's that limiting effect.
What about like informational signs on the interstate where you see like this, and this? How much does that cost?
Well, that's done by IDOT, they do that themselves.
Okay, but I mean, do you have any, I mean, just like, if you said a Casey's, there might be like a blue sign information, a Casey's or a hotel or whatever kind of restaurant.
Yeah, they'll put those on there. And if you guys have good listening on there, but when you get the new ones, they add that more.
Okay.
Plus, when you see more signs like that, that makes me more willing to pull off as well.
Jim was the city administrator in Effingham, Illinois. And Effingham, if you notice on 57 and 70, will have signs that point out Effingham is coming up. Far away from Effingham, so that you skip out on places, and he was there whenever that strategy was employed there. And so if you're talking about other stuff like that, maybe aggressively marketing them through billboards or something at some point, that might be a different conversation. But if you're more talking about just the regular IDOT.
Well, I'm just on with IDOT. So you marketed all the adult bookstore signs. Did you see the revenue?
No, but that's but reach all for those. No, I did. We did the Effingham hotels and restaurants, you know, and we put them in strategic locations.
Yeah.
And then Mount Vernon followed us and did it in strategic locations, trying to block us. But we all love each other.
Okay, thank you.
Are you only speaking with one hotel company right now?
That one so far.
My concern would be if there's only 2 Illinois locations, are they pretty new? Like, I would hate to spend $15,000 on a study for a company that probably isn't.
This study is for any hotels.
Right,
Yes.
but if there's only one that's currently,
I've only had conversation with one
In
so far,
conversation.
but we can use this for all of them.
how many communities of our size have hotels?
A multiple,
I mean, that's fairly common.
especially off the interstate, yes. I'm shocked you don't have one already, or 2.
Do you have any idea this hotel that's considering? I know you said there was a 60% threshold, like for, you know, being capacity. How many rooms, how large is this with this hotel? I know you may not know exactly,
I
but
don't.
potentially how many rooms?
They have, I wanna say I remember the conversation I had with them, I never my notes, and I apologize, I wanna say they have 2 or 3 different models they build, and I think they range from 40 to 80. If I remember correctly.
So like in a community our size though,
They would build it to the right size your community, based upon their forecast, based upon the feasibility study.
and so that my guess was that would probably be on the lower end of like 40 rooms.
I don't know that. The study will help them make that determination, and then we can work with them on that as well. We can talk to them about that.
With some of the data we've had in the past, where it shows traffic flow and all that, can that be, even though it's several years old, can that be used?
They'll use it.
Okay,
They'll grab all the different data points, and I've already did a lot of that, on the flyer we share with them, and they'll go back through verify as well.
okay.
They'll get the data for as far as the traffic counts, the hotel occupancy off the stars reports in Champaign County. So they'll look at all of that.
Okay, I know there's all kind of information on that.
And we use that same data as far as to track the restaurants as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Do other hotels ask for the study to be done in this same way, or do they typically do their own study?
Well, it depends if you have a developer, if you have a property owner, sometimes the property owner would do that. Because they're the one doing the requesting. In this case here, we're doing it from the village perspective. Like if I had property out there and I wanted a hotel to come, I would pick that. But I would be selling my property to that hotel, I'd be controlling that deal. But this here, you're doing a mix, it's gonna cover the whole entire, they would own that study, you're gonna own this study. And I have, as a community in the past, when I was the city manager for Paducah, Kentucky, we paid for a hotel feasibility study for downtown.
I'm like, kind of like, what, you know, what Tammy was saying as well, is like inquiring about how many other, you know, like villages of our size would have a hotel like this. Is there any way that we, other than 60% capacity, that we would have any idea what types of things they would require before we spend the $15,000? Like, how do we know how serious they are about coming here? I mean, I understand they won't come without the feasibility study, but you know, what's the, you know, if we knew some more data besides 60% capacity of a 40, you know, if you're talking about 60% capacity, sorry, my voice, of like an 80-room hotel, I don't think that's gonna be feasible, and I don't know about spending the $15,000
Or if there's a
for it.
certain number
If
of.
there are certain other criteria that we might know that they would require before they would consider coming here, before we spend the $15,000.
Or that the feasibility study would be looking at and saying, and just. You know, we can't really recommend it because they don't currently have X, Y, or Z.
Yes,
But you're thinking we qualify that,
there
there would be no reason we would,
there's no guarantee. Yeah, it's a risk.
right?
It's a $15,000 risk, $15,000 risk for, you know, several $1,000 reward on the back end. It's economic development. There's a risk involved.
A lot of those indicators that you're bringing up, they
Right.
don't know that until they get the
They do the
data
study.
from the study. But there, I mean, some of the other things, like if you're talking about, like lots that they're looking at. If it's a site that works, we can get, like that type of stuff, they can know. They can have some clarity on that. In terms of more of the economic data, they're not gonna know that until we're able to produce some of that data for them. So that's still, that is the risk.
But they wouldn't ask for the study, sorry,
You're okay.
they wouldn't ask for the study. They've already looked at the site, that they looked at the village, they looked at your economics, they know all that. They've expressed interest. I've had multiple conversations with them, but they just, as their first official due diligence, they need the feasibility study.
I think we've been stuck stagnant for quite some time. I'm quite happy to spend $15,000 if it might lead someplace. And if we fall flat on our face, at least we tried to do something and we can use it again. But I think that if we want to move forward, we got to take a step. I just don't think we can just continue the way we're going if we want to grow.
I don't disagree with you. And I looked at the hotel study and I didn't go through the entirety of it. But I looked at what the land requirements, different footprints and all that. But like Max says, not only that, you go ahead, it's hotel study, but it might be beneficial to any other business located here. So there could be residual benefits from that. So I've got no problem spending the money.
And we can show it to other landowners as well in the area that might be a fit for. It might motivate them to take a leap also, but like, I don't want to dismiss your point. There is risk here and we're not trying to downplay because the data might show, no. it doesn't work, but you won't know, and I won't know, and he won't know, and they won't know until we get that, you know what I mean, that data for sure.
I guess my
But-
question was really more like. Does this company, have they done their, initial research on 200 communities in Illinois, and they told 200 communities, if you do this study. We might look at you, it sounds great, you get this study done, and then we'll actually talk. Or have they talked to 5 communities in Illinois, and they're like, we've kind of narrowed it down, we're really interested in this. In your community kind of specifically, like, or is this just a generic out to every village of 5,000?
But I also think that maybe they look at it and say, if they're willing to spend $15,000, then we need to take a hard look at this community.
And
You know.
when we went to Chicago, the ICSC conference, it was my first time doing something like that, great experience. And I got to experience a cold shoulder from a retailer type of attitude. So they weren't, if they weren't interested, they weren't interested type of thing. And I mean, there's a couple that, they didn't hide their, no. Not gonna work. And I think that, whenever you're in the business of just making money, you're not going to waste a bunch of time on, you know what I mean? So I don't think they would have continued to talk with Jim.
And I guess that's what I'm getting at,
Sure.
is that the vibe you're getting, is that they are continuing to talk, and this is something more ongoing that you're not led to believe. This is just completely random.
I share your same concern, but
No, you have a very good point, though,
I think it'll come back fine. How helpful will it be when you go to Las Vegas if you have the study to pick up
It would be very helpful,
additional,
yes, then we could get a second one,
even if these people decide not to,
but all the flags are different, but
having that would be good.
yeah. It's a limiting effect too, you get one, but then you say, this company is coming, and oh, they're coming. So we wanna come to, where are they gonna be at? We wanna be there also, or right next door to it.
And a hotel is a big hunt. It's not, it's one of those, it's a core business in any district. And if you get one of those, other fast food, other types of entities will want to be near it. It's a big effort here. And it's not the one, like, it's not like you're trying to get a rundown motel type of thing coming in either, you're talking about, I would argue, a really quality business. But this is a lot to throw at you, and the last, I would argue, 4 months. This is the most aggressive that the village of St. Joseph has been. In controlling its own future. I would say in quite a while. I don't wanna speak for anybody here, but I think it's been pretty aggressive approach the last few months trying to get some things generated, so.
I've been on since 2005 and I don't recall ever having this approach. I mean, obviously, we've never done the economic stuff, so, I mean, obviously, this is new. So, my thinking is with the hotel, I guess I feel like we could potentially be sitting in a good spot for that, and not only because of the interstate, but because so close to Champaign-Urbana. And when they have big events, there's always hotel issues. People going all the way to Danville to stay in a hotel. If there's big things going on in Champaign-Urbana.
Yep.
And not only that, but when we went to the Samoa in Rantoul with their huge facility there, part of their marketing is to play ball and some of the things there at their facility, you have to use their hotels. But since they can't house all of them there, then they have agreements with some other hotels in Champaign-Urbana. And I jokingly said to Scott Eisenhower that night, it's like, well, maybe St. Joe should be on the list of hotel sharing. But, to me, those are ideas that, Rantoul, I mean, they seem they're on the fast track of not only growing that facility, but, out with their MX you know, facilities growing and there's stuff out on the base that's growing. That I think will bring in a lot of people to the region, that I think we would be sitting in a good spot to capture some of that, because we are so close. And it's not you know, unreasonable to think that someone would stay here versus maybe even versus Champaign-Urbana. You know, because we have a nice point that, you know,
You have a safety factor.
yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a nice place to stay and, you know, I would maybe choose here besides maybe Champaign, I don't know.
Well, let's get that conversation with those two real estate brokers. You guys have quality of life here. That's a big selling point.
So, I guess, you know, yes, I mean, I never like to spend money, but I think this might be a plus for us to move forward. But like I said, we don't have to decide on it tonight. If you want to give us some thought, we can certainly do that. And we can have Joe, you know, put together a little more, and then we can put it on the agenda. We give you guys some time to think about it.
If you have precise questions, just give them to Joe. If you can give them to me, I can get back out with the hoteler to see if I can answer those questions. for you.
I just have one more question. Do you know approximately how long this hotel feasibility study takes?
It doesn't take long. Once if I remember correctly from the proposal, it's about 6 weeks after they come to town, and it could be a month or two before they come to town. They actually will come here.
Well, I think we'd want it done before we go to Vegas.
Right, when's Vegas? Yeah. I'm
May.
sorry.
So that's why
Right,
that's what they're doing like in the
what
spring.
we
Yeah.
And I do wanna, if you say like you're not comfortable with it, Jim and I will aggressively market to other businesses too. So we're not trying to like put you in a bind here but we are just saying if, you know, if you're wanting to be going this direction, it's probably is the time to get on it soon. But, yeah, but if you are not ready to approve or take action on it tonight, that's fine. We can discuss
Make a
it.
motion, Art.
I'll make a motion, we go ahead and fund a feasibility, or the feasibility study or marketing study,
Hotel feasibility study.
hotel feasibility study.
I'll second it.
Ready for a roll call? Painter,
Yes.
Wolfersberger,
Yes.
Rep,
Yes,
Page,
Yes.
Valley,
Yes.
5-0.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Want another cheesecake for the road?
No, thank you. I should have brought some water in.
There's some in the fridge back.
All right, the next item that we have on our agenda is, the adding the gas and electric service, the wastewater treatment plant. And I'm gonna turn that over to Joe to explain that a little bit. I know, Max had some questions.
Yeah.
In regards to that.
Nicholas should be on, he is on Zoom, and hopefully he can hear me, but, as part of the wastewater treatment plant expansion, there's added and also improved service for the facility. This does come with a little bit of the cost that, I wasn't anticipating for this fiscal year. And so we have figured out that we can, at least delay the work long enough and post the invoice after May 1 for the next fiscal year. But I wanted to have an opportunity for Nicholas to kind of explain to you why we have to do this and what. I'm just going to some of the details that I can't explain as well. And then if you have any questions, he can answer those. We do basically need to do it for the project, but Nicholas, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
He's muted.
Can you hear me all right?
Muted himself.
Well, he has the same internet at my house where they just.
Oh, we're-
No, it's fine.
Oh, you froze, okay.
We're still going on here though.
I can actually call them.
Is that good now?
Can you hear me okay?
Gotcha.
All right. This is Nicholas Rademacher, engineer at Clark Dietz. Joe asked me to be here just to expand a little bit on the electric service as well as gas service on the wastewater treatment plant. It looks like you got in your exhibit a little bit of background. I'll just kind of talk through that a little bit more. Like Joe said, with the treatment plant expansion, essentially doubling the size of the plant, there's an increased electrical load with that. And because of that, Ameren will be setting a new larger pole to feed the treatment plant electrical. So there's a cost associated with that. And you can see in some of the numbers there, what they actually do is they're giving the village a credit on the cost to install that equipment. And that's essentially calculated because, with the increased service, there will be an increased electrical usage. So they give the village a break on the cost of the installation. So it doesn't actually cost the village what the actual cost to install the upgrades is on the electrical side.
Nicholas, so we've done a lot of apartment buildings in Champaign, and Ameren always comes at us with this astronomical number that they charge the building owner to do this. And at the end of it all, there's never a charge. So why are we getting charged something in this thing? Is it where you play a waiting game, or are we not getting to the right people, or how is there a way to make this go away?
Maybe the village might be the better person to reach out to Ameren on this, but at least in my experience with treatment plant services and lift station services, we've always seen a cost to add or increase a service. But that's not to say the village can push back on it a little bit, especially since they'll be increasing the revenue for Ameren.
I'm happy to do that. I just don't know who to.
No, I need to ask Jake a question, because he's always involved with it, and I'll ask him what he does.
Okay, if you can give me somebody that I'm happy to push back on it if I can. This is totally.
This is out in Tuscola, which I'm used to dealing with Champaign. That may be the only difference. But I'll see if there's somebody there who can give me some kind of direction to see if we can make it go away or something like that.
Okay, I'm happy.
I think the gas, you don't have gas there now, right?
Correct. There's not an existing gas service.
It'd be a charge that you're gonna have to have. I don't think there's getting away from that, but I think the electric, that there might be a way to make it go away.
Yeah, I'm happy to push on that. I just need probably a little help figuring out who to do that with. So I will do that. I guess just generally, this was for, we need it. I don't know how else to put that. We need to make this happen. But I wanted you all to be fully, informed and up to speed on why, whenever we do the budget for this upcoming year, this will be an added expense unless I'm able to work on the electrical side of it. But does anybody else have any other questions for me?
Yeah, I got a couple. Nicholas, what is the gas going to be used at the sewer plant, since we don't have gas out there now?
We will be adding, so with the office space in the maintenance building, as well as another building that'll house some pumps and other equipment. The heat for those buildings will use natural gas. There's also some water heaters for the plumbing with sinks and bathroom, as well as safety showers will use gas water heaters.
Well, and would it make sense to stay all electric if we're thinking about putting solar out there anyway?
We can definitely look into that now that the solar is going out there. At the time when we were designing it a couple years ago, we were trying to minimize the increase on the electrical load, and that was the reason for the gas service. But I can do some checking on that, especially since we've got a few months before we need to pull the trigger, and just at least see what the potential cost differential would be there.
Okay.
Another question, is that, will they run the gas clear back to the plant, or are they just responsible to the road? If you want it back to the plant, then it's on our dime.
The cost there would take it from Water Street all the way to the entrance gate at the treatment plant.
Okay,
There'd be
Also-
no-
okay, and then another question I had, since you said it's increased, and I realize with the different apparatus there, that there's gonna be more electrical demand. Has that been calculated into the figures that we do put a solar farm out there to supplement the electric?
So you're asking if we've looked at how the solar would offset the electrical
No.
need of the plant?
No, you said we're gonna put a bigger service, but it's gonna be more electrical demand. Has those numbers been calculated into what was needed in a solar field there?
Yeah, they were given the new, Nicholas, you can follow up on this, but they were given the new plant stats.
Okay,
Or the new information specs for the new plant. So is that sounding right, Nicholas? I'm
Yes,
pretty sure.
the solar developers received information on the anticipated electrical load for the plant.
okay, so that was my question, is mainly, did you use those for calculations of what the normal demands were? Or if this was calculated, what the anticipated new demand would be? So,
Yes, the new plant.
okay. Okay,
Well, so I guess Nicholas will do some more research on what Max asked, and then I'll follow up with you, and if you can help me figure out who I need to talk to at Ameren, I'll be happy to do that.
Okay. Well, if we don't bring in the gas and we stay all electric, then that's gonna up your load too, so that's gonna take
Impact
more,
it.
take
Sure.
more money off the bill anyway. But I think, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think there's somebody we can talk to zero it out.
Okay.
one other question, Nicholas, if it, you said it ran back to the gate, okay, never mind, so all I'd have to do is trench it in, under the plant facility. Never mind.
All right. Is that it? No other questions? All right, thank you, Nicholas.
Thank you.
See ya.
Appreciate it. All right, on to item number 5, adding Cedar Drive fence off of the Highway 150. I was glad that got brought up, because with the trail expanding and for us to think about our future, now would be the time to think about putting that entrance over, so that the trail could plan for it, because they would need that as far as part of their planning to, if we extend Cedar ever, now would probably be the best time to do it expense wise, for the trail versus after that. So I will let Joe, did Bridget get a hold of you guys first, or did you get a hold of
The
Bridget?
village contacted them.
Yeah,
It would have been preferable if they would have communicated with us prior on this. Because it's kind of a tight turnaround, which is why this was kind of cobbled together here. But after we talked with them, they're totally in favor of the idea. They would put this in as an alternate. So if the bids come back and it's too much and you're not willing to do it, we can always back out at a later time. However, with like mobilization considerations and other costs that go along with construction, as long as how they're going to configure it in that area too, it makes perfect sense to just go ahead and get it knocked out. The property owner, when I talked to her, she was appreciative of us, of the village keeping them in mind. And this is something that Art had mentioned a while back, that the idea of the trail finally actually going through is seemed to be more like sometime they might get it done. Then they got it done, and so now they're at it, ready to do it. So we gotta know what we're gonna do quickly. So my recommendation is that you there's going to be some design costs that come into this, because Clark Dietz is going to have to work with their engineer, which is That's it. It's good to have an engineer in here. Yeah, gosh dang, thank you. I appreciate that. The Farnsworth. And, they'll come up with a design for that area and then they have that with the bidding documents when they go out. And I think they're wanting to put those out, in the early spring is what I understand. So, we would cash flow it, or we would pay the invoices direct. From the contractor when they're doing that part, to help, the rail trail with cash flow throughout their project. But an estimated cost that was thrown at me by our engineer is 50,000, so plan on, 80. So,
Just
but
hopefully not.
hopefully not, and so, but you never know, and so if it comes back astronomical and we can't swallow it, then we can always just defer it for later and but every design I have seen, every general area plan that I have seen for the Halls ground has always included Cedar Drive being the connecting point from the south to the north. So we would take care of the IDOT considerations as well during this, so that a future developer wouldn't have to mess with that as well, which is always just another perk. But up to you if you are okay with it. I'm just looking for direction to work with our engineers and their engineers, and we get something in the bidding documents.
I don't see anything wrong with it. That I would reiterate. I think you ought to figure in 4 lanes because there's only 2 outlets. If that should ever be built, it may not. So you'd have 2 to cross the Cedar. You could have a right turn going east, left turn going west. So that'd still keep. I mean, it might funnel down to that, but when you come out there, that gives the ability somebody to get the left turn lane, right turn lane, and still be at the cross traffic. Whereas if you've only got 2 lanes, everybody on the north side, they can go to some other street and come out. You've got 2 outlets right now proposed. You've got the Cedar on the north end and Cedar on the south end. So you go ahead and expand the ability that you could have 4 vehicles there.
I'll bring that up with Sean.
Okay. No, I think it's being very proactive. I'm kind of shocked at the engineering cost. I didn't know pencils and paper were that expensive, but it's kind of like, damn.
Well, no, I don't think that's not I don't think that design work for it.
Okay.
But I can get some more realistic numbers on that. They didn't make it sound like it was all that much to design, but
No, they could do that and just put an aggregate there instead of a pave. I think would be very proactive. And if something like that ever comes into fruition, then it's already there where you wouldn't have to do the removal of the railroad grade there and all that. So it would already be there. And if not, it's a benefit of the farmer. You got heavy equipment. He's got a lot of room. You take a light grain table and you can drive right through it. So I mean, it helps him. Yeah, and like I said, if it doesn't get built, it hadn't been built. We'll see that it's there.
Any other questions, thoughts?
I'm all
So,
for it.
I hope you get it.
do you need anything more than just guidance there?
I would, if you would take a motion on it for me, I'd appreciate it, and then, that would move forward to get something in there.
Make a motion to go ahead and proceed with
The bidding documents.
with the bidding or see what's the design bidding for the Cedar entrance across the road over the rail trail.
Second,
Wolfersberger,
yeah.
Brett,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Valley,
Yes.
Painter,
Yes,
5-0.
Okay, on to old business, we have a continuation of the public hearing for the special use permit application. What do we need to do special to open or close that in this thing?
Open up in case you got sensitive members of the public who want to make any comments. You can take the comments. Then you can probably take a presentation from the developer. And then you should have the minutes from the planning commission, right?
They have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just gave a packet of that to the engineer who's here for the developer. So if you don't see anybody in the public out there, you're gonna invite the developer to make some comments.
Actually, is there anyone in the public out there that wants to speak first? No?
You can't tell if I got the mask.
Yeah, we have someone incognito. So if not, then we'll just open it up to the developer to make their presentation and it was. Do we make that notice now that on what the planning and zoning decided on that, or just wait?
Sure can, I mean, you're considering it as part of the evidence of what you got. You're gonna hear comments from the developer, and you can ask the developer questions. And then if the planning commission made a recommendation for approval and then put in some conditions, you can ignore their recommendation. You could say that you like it. You could say you like it, but you want to add in some more conditions based on what you heard. So that's pretty much the spread of where you could go. I just turned it over to Don and listened to his comments, and then you can skim over those materials and ask him questions based on those, based on what he's asked or presented to you.
Right, go ahead and do that.
I'm Don Wathier with Ernest Clancy and Associates, engineers representing the developers tonight. They're both here. You're happy to talk to them and Brad and Brendan about what their thoughts are. But I just wanted to try and summarize some of the data that we provided to the Plan Commission, and so that you can get a general feel. We also did provide some handout materials for you tonight that kind of show, there's some renderings that kind of show sort of what things will look like as you drive past. A general indication as to colors, theme, and that sort of thing, and general indication as to layout. We've not designed the site yet. I want to make sure that you understand that this is, we're not going to go to all of the effort and expense to design everything until we're sure that you're okay with having this facility. It's kind of chicken and the egg, because the cost there is pretty expensive to do that. So special uses, this is a special use permit case. So I just kind of want to go through some of the fundamentals of approval of the special use. That just in general, there are zoning factors that are required for you to consider. The Illinois Supreme Court sort of created those factors for you to consider. They're called the LaSalle factors, and these are just some of the elements that go into those factors. So one of the things we believe that it's necessary for the public convenience to have a facility like this here in St. Joe. We believe there's demand for additional self-storage units here. And not only that, but there's demand for handicap accessible self-storage units here. And so in this area. Okay, obviously traffic is an issue. Well, if you think about it, even though there's going to be several hundred units there, the reality is that if you have more than 2 people in the driveway at any one time, anything more than that would be highly unusual. You might have more people visiting, but to actually have 2 people pulling up to get in at the same time is pretty unusual. So we have the driveway set up so that there can be 2 truck and trailer type units waiting to get into the gate without having any interference on traffic on 150. And so we think that we have adequate traffic and safety issues handled there. The entrance location is set up so we don't have traffic backups on 150. Because obviously that would be a safety issue and a bad thing. Okay, we think that, the engineer, obviously emergency services are available from right here in town. The fire station is, right there. we think that this site makes it compatible with the adjacent land uses. You've got floodplain and wooded area behind it, so you're not going to have adverse influence as if there was like houses right behind it. You've got agriculture on both sides of it, but those are zoned commercial, so those both, all that land is zoned commercial, so even if commercial development happens, you're really not impacting that. One of the things that we are going to do is landscape around the facility so that we break up the view. It's not a long view of metal, of the metal units, that we put bushes and trees and various things, and we've provided a list of possible landscaping. It's not the final list. We haven't hired a landscaper yet to do that. They may have a different idea. I kind of like some of the plantings that provide spring and fall color with flowers and fall leaves, but that may change. We'll just have to see. We're not really interested, I think, in doing like, just a giant shrubbery. So it's all hidden. That's not what we're looking at. We're providing drainage for the site. The site will drain generally from east to west. And as part of the site plan, you can see there's proposed a 2.2 acre stormwater management basin. It's basically going to be a grass bottom basin. Again, it's not designed, but we provided a picture of a grass bottom basin that would be similar in the handout packet towards the back, I think, and it gives you an idea of what it would really look like. So the basin is intended to be, pretty landscaped. We'll put some trees and do some other things too with that as well. So, but we do have the storage volume and capability for that. We think the site is suitable for that. It's not near any residential uses. It's not going to impact visibility for any residential uses. The nearest urban use is really the ball field across and down the road a bit from this site. So again, we don't think that really impacts the outfield of the ball field. So it really doesn't have any impact there, we don't believe. One of the things that we're doing, this is, if you look at the site plan, you see that it's what we're calling a fortress type enclosure. Instead of having units surrounded by chain link fence and barbed wire, we're making the units in a square with an entrance gate so that you're inside. And so that when you're inside, nobody can really see you inside. And so that, again, that traps any litter or debris, anything like that is kept inside so that we don't have any issues like that. We think that this conforms to all your zoning ordinance requirements as set forth. We think it's in compliance with your zoning ordinance, and this site has been zoned for commercial use for many years, and it's never been, there's been no commercial development out there. We think that this is the possibility that putting this facility in will spur some of that potential growth. But obviously, that area has the issue of not having wastewater, sanitary sewers. This is a use that can provide commercial development, but doesn't really require any wastewater sanitary sewer facilities, because there will be on-site, essentially porta potties that are available there. The site will be fenced with a gate, an automatic control gate, so that you've got a keypad. You you get yourself in or out. But, you know, it's, at any other time, the gate is closed, so it's not available for teenagers to decide to do something silly at 1 a.m. Or, you know, something like that. So we think this is a good use at this location. And we think it may, you know, help promote other growth out there. And it certainly contributes, we think, to the economic benefits of the community, because obviously the revenue generated by this use, while it's not super high, like you might find for some other things, it does generate revenue. It doesn't generate new kids at school. It doesn't really generate any need for any municipal services of any kind. So it generates revenue without generating expenses for the village or anybody else. There is Illinois American has their main water main running right along 150. So we will be tapping into that, providing fire service, fire hydrants to that site in compliance with the fire code. And so we think that that's, again, that's a positive for that site. We can provide that. It doesn't conflict with any public commitments or other public facilities in any way. There's nothing planned there. It's not going to alter population density or alter residences of any kind. We think it's going to enhance the value of the neighboring property as well as that property. And in fact, what we know is that these developers are contract purchasers of the lot that would be created for their site. We know that the existing landowner has another nibble from another developer. We don't know what. We only know that she has a nibble. So already it's creating interest in that area by other commercial development. We don't think that it impacts the agricultural applications there. It's not gonna, it's not gonna care whether there's herbicides applied or insecticides or fertilizer or any of that would, with farming, sometimes you have that problem when you put a new house next to farm ground. We think that this results, there's no long-term environmental impacts of any kind. We've checked, there's no threatened and endangered species that are going to be impacted. We've checked with the State Department of Conservation about that. We've checked with the Historic Preservation Agency. There's no known Native American burial grounds or antiquities of any kind on site. So there's no impacts for those kinds of things. We don't, so bottom line is we think that this is a good site for this kind of use. There is one thing, we do a small portion of that site, primarily where the stormwater detention basin goes, is actually in the 100-year floodplain of the creek. However, it's in the flood fringe of the floodplain and not the floodway. Do you guys know what the difference of that is? I can explain that. The federal government for the floodplain regulations divides the floodplain into two pieces. The floodway is that portion of the floodplain where the water is flowing through. The flood fringe is the portion of the floodplain where water spills over and basically stands there, but doesn't really flow through. It just sits there. And then when the flood goes down, it goes back out. So if you can use and develop in the flood fringe because it has no impact on what happens with the flooding. The water's flowing through. So you can use those areas. You can't use the floodway portion because that then blocks the flow. And causes the flood to raise up in elevation. So we're in the flood fringe, not the floodway. So we have no real impact on flooding, even though it's, you know, we have a minor area there for primarily for the stormwater detention basin. This, to create this site will involve a subdivision of that property. Right now, that property is several hundred acres. That includes not only the farm ground that you see along the highway, but also the forested ground behind, all the way back to the interstate highway, quarter-mile to the north. So there will be a subdivision involved in creating the parcels that will be part of this site. And so that would be the next step. I believe that the landowner, the current landowner, not only wants to include this site in that subdivision, but also wants to create other commercial lots. Because again, she already has another potential, she has interest at least in another potential buyer. So she wants to create some commercial lots. I think that pretty much covers my basic input of things. What else can I tell you? So the units, you have pictures of what the units will look like generally, including what they look like on the inside. Like I said, the units, approximately 10% of them will be handicapped accessible. The paving for the area off of the highway and into the site to the gate will be hard surface pavement, concrete or asphalt, hot mix asphalt or something of that nature. Beyond that point, most of the site will be crushed stone. However, there will be portions of the site that are paved with oil and chip that is then rolled so that it can be suitable for use for, again, accessibility issues. An oil and chip, if you think about an oil and chip street like you might have in some of the village streets when you oil and chip, you end up with the white chips on the top, and that's not really, if you had a wheelchair, that wouldn't be fun to try and go, but part of this is to roll those then so that there is no, and then sweep them so there is no chips left on the surface. There's just the hard surface on top. So we end up with a fully accessible pavement for those areas. Like I said, we're proposing to put 2 porta potties there that available for the local, so that there's no issues about that. One of the things I didn't mention was dark sky lighting. We think that that's important to have dark sky lighting that's on motion detectors, so that if nobody's there, there's no lights on. And if somebody is there, the dark sky lights are such that while they might be mounted up, they look downward. And so, like you go past street lights on the street and you can see the bulb. Okay, that's not a dark sky light. A dark sky light, when you are standing to the side, you can't see the light bulb. It's shining down and brightening the area, but it's not creating light pollution outward and upward, so that we can keep that important aspect of things. It will have security cameras tied to the internet, so if there is an issue, that will be available. The lighting is also going to be solar powered now, because we think that is a pretty practical way to handle things. They now make those units where solar powered unit can last 6 to 8 hours. In many communities, in fact, are switching their streetlight poles from the current system to solar powered units. Because they provide just as much light as a street light. But they're solar powered, so there's no Illinois power bill. It's all free, so to speak. Have I missed anything? Can you guys think of anything that I've not covered? I think I've covered most everything.
Yeah.
Questions?
Looking at the list, it looks like those were all the things that you discussed at the planning and zoning. Specifications that were highlighted, so. Planning and zoning, voted to approve the special use permit, at their, meeting.
I got a couple questions. One is, I didn't see anything outlay that talked about how far it was from the edge of the road to the stop sign. You talked about having a truck and a trailer like that. Do you know approximately what the distance was from the edge of the road to the stop sign?
I think it's here.
Yeah, it's like. I'm gonna say
35
it's like,
feet to the building and then plus the driveway, right?
yeah, it's like more than, it's 80+ feet, so it's.
80 foot from the,
It's more than 80 feet from the
Yeah,
pavement.
from the road to here is 35, then this distance is another,
Well, yeah, it's
I mean,
like,
it's looks like about 3 times that.
yeah,
okay, I just,
yeah, so we're sure that. Pickup truck pulling a long, you know, I'll call it the classic lawnmower trailer kind of thing.
well, anything like that, you're looking at the combination with the tongue and all that, you're looking at 50 foot.
Yeah,
And setting back from the gate little ways and all that, I want to make sure there was ample clearance to get 2 or 3 vehicles. Another thing you talked about fencing. I mean, the building itself represents a fence, or you, that my understanding, you're gonna put another fence on the perimeter or the outside of that?
no, there is no fence on the perimeter.
Okay.
The only fencing will be in the gap in the back where we're not going to put units underneath the high powered line,
Okay.
the high voltage lines. And the gate in front, yeah, basically the 2 gates.
Okay, I
Is
just worried about that.
the fence, yeah,
Okay,
because the units themselves provide the security, for. You know, there's no way.
when you mentioned fencing, that's why I wanted, none of the drawings showed that, and I thought,
No.
I'm trying to figure out if you put an additional fence on.
Yeah, it's-
Questions?
Are all of the lights motion detected lights?
mhm,
All of them?
mhm.
And I know you said.
This is actually because that helps save on the battery life for the unit, for those lights, you know, if it was solar powered and it went all night from this time of the year from 4 o'clock till they don't, the lights are, the batteries are basically about 8 hours worth of power. Well, they wouldn't last all night, so we think that, you know, it's a kind of a win-win situation. One, we don't have to worry about the light power battery issue, but also why have a light burning at 2 o'clock in the morning when there's nobody there? You know, if somebody is there at 2 o'clock in the morning and the light is on, the sheriff's deputy or the village police officer can go past and go, there's a light on. That means somebody's in there and they're not supposed to be.
Including these, I mean, I know you said may not be 100% accurate until you know for certain if this passes, but you know, this is showing like lamp posts right along 150. Are those gonna be?
No, we're actually gonna mount the lights to the units themselves.
So there will not be these lamp
Yeah,
posts.
we're not gonna put street lights along 150. We may have a street light or 2 type of unit at the gate. But we're still, that's kind of a design issue to work our way through, but we're still thinking about that.
Is it directly across from the ball field?
Not
Not directly, but
directly, no,
Would it be west, more west?
a little west.
trying to find.
I just have a dumb
You know,
question.
basically the driveway, think about the driveway is that it is basically underneath the high power Well, I've
I was
always,
just wondering if your streetlights, if they were having a night game out there, affect the batter at the plate. Based on the. Them questions, but I was
Shouldn't. Shouldn't, because again, the batter won't be able to see that light.
Okay,
Cause it's the dark skylights that all end up down.
Just shine into there.
even the ones at the gate,
Well, the,
That's the plan, yes. There's the dark sky.
So the entrance is gonna be east of the entrance to the ball field.
I think it's gonna be about the same, because when I looked at the entrance before, for the ball field, it's pretty much right underneath the power lines. And ours is gonna be underneath the power lines as well. So it'd be pretty close. But by the way, why was that ever not connected? That's just bizarre to me. If anybody knows, please tell me.
No, can't.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No idea. Zero idea.
I'll go back to my maps. Coughing again and talking.
Alright, no further questions?
that blue would look nice if it said like, welcome to Spartan Country.
Right.
Yeah. You know, let's take it in the design phase, there you
You
go.
can always mention some things.
Yeah. Well, especially if they're like Columbia blue.
That's right.
Yeah. So, do we close out of the public hearing then before we,
Yeah, I think yeah, what you can do is, I mean, historically, since I'm kind of the new kid on the block. When you've approved, variances and special use permits in the past, did Joe Learman prepare an ordinance for you to approve, or you stuck it in the minutes? Or do you remember?
for some reason, I wanna think we did an ordinance to do it, or did some kind of either a resolution or ordinance to approve. I can look back at my file.
You've got very highly detailed findings from your planning commission, which did a really great job, obviously, right? What you would do is, having looked at what they recommended, you can ignore the whole thing if you wanted to, or you can just endorse it as it goes along. If they put some conditions on the back, at least the folks that are asking for it actually haven't bought it yet. So they give them a period of time within which to get it bought, or this special use permit disappears. Okay. Maybe you love those streetlights and you think those have to go in. You could require them to do that. Anything that you want to customize on this particular project, you can do that. But if you feel like the planning commission did a fine job with it and you don't have anything else to add, I normally like the idea of you're doing an ordinance, but because their findings were so detailed, I'd let you get away with making a motion, just putting it in the minutes, and you're gonna incorporate their findings into the minutes. If you feel like you wanna think about it more, and you're not ready to do it tonight, you can just go ahead and put this on the next meeting's agenda. You don't have to continue the public hearing anymore, unless you wanted to hear more evidence. So in other words, you're saying, Don, you're a nice guy, you told us about this, but we need you to come back and tell us more about this. If you want more evidence to consider, then we're going to continue the hearing to your January meeting, so that you would be able to entertain more evidence. Otherwise, all you can decide on is what planning commission provided to you and what Don provided to you tonight.
I like what you said about just adopting what the planning commission came up with.
This will upset Don if you decide this all tonight, but if that were the case, here's a motion that you could read out.
Anybody have any other questions before?
My only hesitation is, and I'm for it, don't get it wrong. But when we've done an ordinance in the past, usually, I think it was contingent on the final plan, wasn't it?
That's already included here.
Sorry.
You are you talking about them complying with like stormwater,
I mean, the design plan and all that.
Well, and that's a legitimate point. What they're proposing is a pretty picture. And what plan commission said was, you can move around what it is you've got, so it's not gonna have a permanent footprint. In fact, it'll be part of it, they're gonna do part of it now, part of it later, or they may not do part of it later, they can change their minds.
No
The
problem.
planning commission said that as long as it's kind of loosely similar to what they proposed, and they've got their detail in there, that they can move around and do whatever they want. You could say, that sounds nice, planning commission, but they showed me this picture, they have to build this picture, and I want the detail of that.
Well,
That's okay to do, but
Yeah.
that's not what planning commission recommends.
yeah, I mean, on that, I understand. If I was them, I'd want the flexibility. I don't have to go ahead and build all the, because it might vary. You might need bigger units, you might need whatever. I mean, I can understand that, but I think in the past, we've done something, there was always a contingency on that, but I've got no problem. I mean, I just want to be consistent with what we've done in the past.
You guys get elected to decide this, not me, not your administrator. You get to decide, you get legally, you're allowed to decide. So whatever you want is what we do.
Well, you guys feel comfortable with it?
I do. I mean, we kind of straw poll.
Yeah.
Straw
I mean,
poll, they
okay,
gave them
but-
our blessing. I mean, the planning and
Yeah.
zoning did their job. If they
Yeah.
approved it, then I don't know why we hold it up.
Okay.
Can you clarify for me what when you're saying the contingent on the planes, are you talking about the layout specifically, or are you talking about them complying with like stormwater?
No, it's just like when somebody had a plan on something like that, okay, if they had to. Let's say, I'll change the road, we need two inch or something like that, I'm just hypothetical. But something like that, they had, there might be a little deviation, but it wouldn't change much, and like I said, I'm not against it in any way. I just wanna make sure that we don't turn around and prove that, and then find out, well, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do this, that. All that, but if everybody's comfortable, you know, Marky Mark seems to think we're okay, so go ahead and read it in there.
Well, they got a whole lot of latitude and you don't have to give it to them. So they got a ton of latitude with this.
I would say to you that in this particular instance, we've approached it this way because of the nature of what it is. In a different situation, like, I'm trying to think of another special use, like say, somebody was building a factory that was a special use. Well, then you may want more detail and more construction plans than what we have provided at this point because of the nature of the beast. In this instance, what you see pretty much is what you're gonna get. You're gonna get those kinds of building units. Will have different sizes for different, different people want different amounts of space to rent. But, the blue color is pretty much the blue color. The buildings are the
What
buildings.
if we weren't feeling blue? No, read it in Max, there's
I
enough.
make a motion to approve the request for the special use permit for 5.2 acre tract on Route 150. Under the conditions as provided in the recommendations and findings dated November 30th, 2023, which by reference are incorporated herein. Ta-da.
Second,
And that's a roll call vote.
Okay, Brett,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Natalie,
yes,
Painter,
Yes.
Wolfersburg.
Yes.
5-0.
And I agree with Mark, the planning and zoning, I think, did a really great job, because if you look at their list of specific items, I think they were fairly specific, so to me, approving it under those conditions too. Even though there's a small room for deviation, there's not big room for a lot of deviation, so as far as the things that would really matter to us, I think, so I think with that in mind, I'm comfortable with that too, but yeah, Mark, I'll look that up in some of our other special uses. It seemed like we have done them in ordinance form before.
My MO is to do ordinances, and if, the more complex it is, the more I like to do that.
Mhm.
But candidly, I litigated a case where someone was challenging what we did. And all we did is put it in the minutes and then reference planning commission, which it had hardly any detail at all, and I won that case, which I didn't think I was going to. And so because they're so detailed, your minutes are reflecting that, hey, this is what they gotta do. I can take that to court and win.
Yes,
So that's why I'm okay
they're
with
very
that.
specific in here on a lot of.
That's
these.
what, but normally, yeah, I do like to have it back or have it in ordinance form, but this is still all legal.
We did that for Philo, but the Philo Bank.
Yeah.
But that's just one example, but.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
Yeah, that one got a lot of detail into it, and it also, it had a lot more detail in it than what we're doing.
So, okay, very good. That's, taken care of. So do we need to sign anything for them before they go, or you'll just get it off to them?
They've got a copy of the planning commission stuff, so they've got what they need to go for it. From here, later they'll get a copy of minutes that just show they approved it, and then they're golden, but they can go to the bank right now.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the point setup. Be sure you don't want a little goodie on the way out the door. You come and help yourself. So I do not want to bring any cheesecakes home, so. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll be back very soon.
All right, well, thank you. All right, next item on, old business is in your packets. We have more information in regards to solar, the purchase versus the PPA. Review that. If you have questions for Joe, and then he can forward them to either one of the companies or the consultant on the questions. Our thinking is once the consultant has a chance to review that, we'll bring all that information, and you'll have all that to review for now in the next meeting. And we can move forward and make a decision on that. So
I do want to, so most of you weren't on the board when we had a blow up on the whole thing. So I can tell you that I think Tammy and Terry are for renting it, whatever it is. But I'm gonna throw something out there that because of our Cimarron meeting, this came up to me that I think it's a better way to sell you on it. So I can tell you that I think buying it is the way to go because the incentive is gonna match it. Okay, so what, we're gonna buy it for $1.1 million and we're gonna get $1 million back in incentives, okay? If you rent it, they're gonna sell it to you for $1.1 million and they're gonna take your $1 million in incentives, okay? So they're making, because nobody's giving you anything for free here.
right.
Nobody's coming into this town and handing you money, okay? So I'm telling you, you're throwing away $1 million if you rent it. My personal opinion, I do this stuff. So you can take it however you want, but we found out at also the meeting, not the Cimarron meeting, another meeting, that you can take this loan out with the sewer plant and get it for 1.8%. So that money that we get back, you're gonna get back probably half of that. You're gonna get back 500,000 within a year. And then you're gonna get probably about, I don't know what it is, Joe. Over 7 years, you'll get the rest of it, the other 500,000 or whatever it is.
I gotta look at
Okay.
the chart exactly, but
So that money, you don't have to, for 1.8%, you don't have to put that money towards the solar. You can just, because your bill right now is $70,000 to $80,000 a year. Your bill's gonna go up, as we just heard. So let's say it's gonna go up to $100,000 a year. So you're saving $100,000. Okay, on the Ameren thing, if we buy it. If you don't buy it, you're paying this company 5.4 cents kilowatt hour. Right now, Ameren's at 8 cents. So you're letting them go put solar on there. Doesn't cost us anything, but we're saving less than 3 cents, okay? But you could take that 500,000, put it in a fund for your TIF money, because at the Cimarron meeting, that guy said the hardest thing about TIF is waiting on the money to come in so you can give out incentives. So within a year, you'd have $500,000 that you could help get your TIF stuff going. And you're still gonna pay off your sewer plant in probably 10 years or less. If you just let it go as it is from what you're not paying on your Ameren bill. Plus, you're gonna have all this extra money that you can use towards TIF or other things like the $15,000 we're paying for the hotel thing. That'd been nice to have money somewhere that we could have used for that or whatever. I'm just telling you, before it comes up, I don't need any of these people telling me what I know, that it's gonna be better to buy it than it is to rent it, or however they're selling it to us. Solar is a huge business right now. You just had a company come and want to put 30 acres of solar out there. That's because, and they're throwing money at you left and right. I mean, it's big time business. If you
Throwing
choose
our
to
money
rent,
back at us.
yeah,
Yeah, throwing our
right,
money back at us.
exactly. And if the village had money, I would tell you, you could do that yourself and do nothing but benefit the village of St. Joe, where they're gonna give you a 10 or 15% discount, which is peanuts on what they're gonna make off of that thing. But that's a whole different story. But I'm just telling you, from my opinion, take it, do some research, whatever. You don't wanna rent this thing, you wanna buy it. And yes, it's gonna cost us money, but we're gonna get it back and we'll be able to do stuff with it.
And the 500 grand comes back that fast?
Within a year, you wanna have the 500,000. Now, that'll be from whoever we decide to go with, who's gonna do this thing. The guy I work with has put together a proposal already. I haven't presented it because he has to be able to do work in the state, since it's gonna be a whole different thing and he's about to get that license. So he'll be able to do these and then he can give you a proposal. But he said it'd be about 1,050,000 to get it done. Now, that's not, they want to put in fencing and everything else. That's no fence around it. That's just doing the solar. Okay, so it's none of the other fancy stuff this other company was gonna do. But I'm just telling you, my personal opinion is renting it is not the way to go. Yes, it would save us a little bit of money, but they're making out like a fat cat and we're just sitting here saving pennies.
I'll just give a little history when we had, and I concur with Max on that. I voted to go ahead at that time to go ahead and do the power purchase agreement. Do you understand what that is, the power purchase agreement? Okay, if you don't what it is, you don't really own, you just get a discount on electricity with an inflationary clause built into it. But every profile I've seen since then, if we bought it, even at a higher interest rate, the payoff would be approximately 5 years. If it's dropped down to 1.8, we could buy it and own the place with just the money savings from that entity and others, that we'd have a payoff of 2.5 years. Why would you want to do that? And that could go ahead and go toward offset the cost of the sewer plant or maybe something else. It gives you.
You'd have to stick with strictly sewer because it's out of sewer. funds.
That's fine. So that could go strictly paying off the sewer. And so instead of hearing people, I mean, it gives you an opportunity to do stuff just on the sewer end of it. So if you're looking at, yeah, we have a loan, at, let's say 1.1 with the fencing, and depending if there again, you don't know if they're tilting solar panels or what brands or anything like that. You control the different things. And we can own it. That money, you still got a power bill for the transportation of the stuff, but it would essentially nullify that. It'd take 2 to 3 years, but then you're looking at enough savings that could go towards the sewer plant, which was twice what we anticipated. So
In the Ameren, through the incentive program with Ameren, it's dollar for dollar. It's not them selling it to us at 5.4 cents. We're not paying 5.4 cents. Whatever we produce, if we build a big enough solar field, it's gonna eat up everything. My bill went from $400 to $40. So I'm just telling you, there are delivery costs, but I've also got gas on mine on too. I think it was $36 or whatever. So from April to April, whatever you produce, it just tries to even out. But I'm telling you, you're gonna still have a bill if you lease it or however they're selling it to us at. And it lasts for 25 years. Okay, we're buying power from them for 25 years. None of us are going to be here in 25 years. So you're putting that on a board you're making a decision for a board that's not even here yet. That they're gonna have to continue to pay for it, and if we go the route of buying it ourselves. If we just put the money back towards the solar, which you're saying we have to.
Yeah.
You're
So
gonna
the money was
Put it
fixed.
back in sewer.
Those funds are separate funds.
okay.
Well, I mean, that's still fine. You still
Okay,
got,
but if you do it that way, then you're paying for it in probably 2 or 3 years, like ours. said.
like I said, the projections on the higher interest rate had a payback, you know, at five years or something like that. If by chance we can get it at the 1.8 in conjunction with the sewer.
I don't know that, have we checked into, I didn't think we could deviate from that loan from the government. Cause those were very specific on what that loan was for.
They're talking about they would utilize a different,
That's what the people told us.
it would be a different.
The meeting in Chicago that they have now started to allow you to use.
SRF funds for.
So it would be a
this.
separate loan.
It'd be a
then.
separate
Separate.
loan. So
What we've been approved for already.
it'd be totally different from the wastewater treatment plant and Elm Street.
Okay.
So it would go through the same approval process, which, I mean, if that's possible, that 1.8% is cheap money. You can't get.
That's
one-
why I was saying if there'd be any way to use that money.
The only thing about that is I'll just remind you to the wastewater treatment plant, how we thought we had that. The forgiveness locked up and all that, and that getting approval is sometimes not fun with the state. So I don't know how quick of a turnaround they can get answers on that part. Cause there's an approval process to get, to know if you got that loan or not. But I guess what I would just ask is, this is obviously somewhat of a complicated topic. So if any of you have specific questions, I would be happy to either take those questions from you and get them answered, or even set up either individual times for you all to talk to the companies, or whatever would be helpful with you all to feel comfortable with the decision that you have to make eventually.
We do have numbers.
So we have the original analysis that was provided. Our consultant is working through this new purchase option that was provided by Progressive Business Solutions. And then the PPA agreement provided additional numbers, which breaks down their funding formula. And they were just trying to be transparent and show where they got their numbers from. And he's doing another side.
Because they put in, if we own it, they put in $7,000 a year for maintenance.
And that's on.
There is no maintenance. I
didn't get this guy.
It was in my mailbox.
Yeah, that was sent by email. The new-
Okay.
the new- That was the email that we talked to.
Yeah, I just look into the new one. Like I said, I don't need a consultant to tell me what I already know, because we've already looked at the other numbers and they're all skewed. In the middle of it, they had $55,000 to replace all the inverters, and the inverters are already warranty. So you're not going to pay to have an inverter.
There again, if you own it and control it, depending on the panels they're talking about up there, would be great in 25 years. You get maybe a higher quality one that they have a degradation of 5% over 30 years. So you can control a little bit of the construction on that. That being said, I did submit a list of questions to Joe. If you want, you got my permission. If you want to share them with other trustees for their fuel for thought, that you go ahead and they can look at that, have them know what's in conjunction.
It is very complicated. Like I said, I would go ahead and look at the information from the consultant. Also because I said, he's not a salesperson, he's a consultant.
And that's the information that we already had.
You have.
Yes.
So the timeline was that we were originally approached by a PPA company. And he analyzed it and basically said that that is in line with PPA arrangements that he has seen throughout the state. Then the conversation became, well, are we sure that we want to do the PPA? I mistakenly called it a lease. It's not a lease, it's a PPA. So what he did is he went and took numbers from what he has seen in other projects and made a hypothetical purchase option and then put it side by side with PPA that was proposed to us. Then whenever we got that, the group decided that they wanted to get a actual purchase proposal to compare it side by side with the PPA. So what you have currently is this group, Progressive Business Solutions, which is the group in Chicago that we talked with there.
Right.
And they're the ones doing one for the Park District Intervention.
And there, yes, so they have an actual purchase proposal. And then we have an actual PPA proposal, and our consultant is going to try to put it in as simplistic terms on the financing side as possible for us to consider. And he's still working on that. And
I've looked at this and you think these.
The original one, I think, is skewed. Now, the new one I haven't looked at yet.
It's in an email, and that's what my questions that I gave to Joe, and he was gonna submit it to.
It's actually in the new proposal, it does mention, maintenance and, I mean, it was,
It
there was a number
figures
for maintenance.
$7,000 a year of maintenance on other things. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, that might have been mowing or something like that, which I don't.
And
yeah.
actually, I think it does mention in there too, that we would have to hire someone who has the knowledge of solar to well, maintenance and to basically.
well, they
make
just
sure
made
it's
some of
right.
that expertise. It's no cost under a PPA, but you're paying for it because you're buying electricity from it.
Right. And the other thing, if you own it, you would have to, at the end, and like I said, as Max said, we won't be around then or be making those decisions, but in 25 years or so, but you would be responsible for the decommissioning and disposing of or whatever you do with it in 25 years.
I would want to point out while we're sitting here talking about it, that in the new proposal, you should, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, you should, but there's really, I think that it was a pretty fair side by side of what you're actually considering here. They have the pros, basically the pros and cons of the PPA and the pros and cons of the ownership of the system. So the pros that they lay out for the PPA is the federal tax credits, accelerated depreciation are used by a third party entity who owns the system, fixed energy costs for 25 years, 25-year performance guarantee, decommissioning paid by the vendor, no solar expertise needed, no capital investment. The outline that they have for ownership of the system is under the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, allows for a 30% investment tax credit and accelerated depreciation on tax liabilities. Essentially, free power from solar generation after year 5, warranty based on contract. Owner would decommission the field, which owner would be us, must hire contract expertise, and then capital investment. I think that's actually a very fair, high level overview of the decision that you're making. And you got to make a decision between those two. They're both fair.
The whole thing is the ownership after 5 years versus continuing to pay for 25 years.
That's also calculated in higher interest rate too.
Yeah.
So that's,
Oh, yeah, I think that.
But the new comparison is gonna take into consideration the lower.
No, it doesn't.
If it's available, they're just doing a comparison using what.
I mean, what the consultant's doing now.
he's going to put this new purchase proposal and the updated information from the PPA side by side to hopefully make it easier for us to see over that 25-year period.
But it will still use like an average interest rate.
No, it'll use the information proposed by Progressive
Okay.
Business Solutions.
And
they were the ones who told us we could get it at the 1.8.
Yeah, they told Max and I of
See,
it.
that's what I don't like. So these people, and I'm not blowing smoke up your butts. I'm telling you, these people met with me and Art and said, it is a no-brainer that you own this. Is that,
They said that, the only thing you really lose, you don't get the depreciate as a village. Still that you get if you build on your
the
own.
third party gets all the benefit.
But the big thing to me is, this would give us the ability to maybe pay down the sewer plant. And maybe you hear people raising hell about their sewer bills and all that. That gives us a little option, maybe we can help the citizens. That's one of the reasons I'm thinking about, I think we'd be better off buying it. And also you control what kind of products go in. It wouldn't be a short term, that's a long term. That's their long game. But
So I want to be as helpful as possible with you all gathering what information you need to make a decision that you feel like you understood it thoroughly. So if you would like me to set up meetings, please email me your availability and I'll be happy to do that. Or if you just have general questions that you would like me to get answers from anybody involved in this, I'd be happy to do that too. But whatever I need to do just to help you feel good about the eventual decision you need to make, because you need to do it, you need to do something. And or my you don't actually, no, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do what I'm just saying that this is a savings either way that you go. There's just different risk and factors you have to consider based on which.
I'm just telling you, my opinion is we buy it. If you guys all vote as the last board did, which there was only 3 people here and Art stabbed me in the back.
if it takes, I would have the minutes amended to send my vote. You want me to read the question I submitted? Or
Yes, I do agree with Joe. If you're not going to take my advice and you're gonna go with the PP, whatever, at least do that. I mean, it is no cost to us and there is a tiny bit of savings. I'm just telling you, that guy's getting fat and why can't we enjoy that versus him? Especially if we can get the loan at 1.8%. I see, even if you can't and you can get a loan for it, then I still think it's worth it because you pay it off in 5 years. But if you can get it at 1.8%, I think it's very advantageous.
Tammy, can you just give us newbies a brief synopsis of why you prefer to rent versus purchase?
nothing in your pocket.
Exactly.
I mean,
Didn't
that's
cost,
the only.
didn't cost.
Yeah, not the
The
upfront.
no risk and the no cost.
It could go about
My concern is adding additional debt service to the sewer plant. Since we already have a huge project already going on, so my concern was adding the additional debt service. Even though, and I've said it many times before, I'm not a gambler. So I tend to lean more on the very conservative side of things as far as the risk factor, and all the projections and everything always sound wonderful. And and just like the information that they were given up at the conference, it was from a salesperson, so of course they're gonna make it sound like the very best. So that's why I just want to make sure that we look at all the risk factors, the fact that we would be adding additional infrastructure to the village to maintain. So we would probably have to hire out to do that, because our guys already have a lot going on, and we have no solar experts there. So whatever that level of expertise would be needed to run that for the 25 years, that would be something that we'd have to consider. The decommissioning, after the 25 years, of course, nobody knows, none of us have a crystal ball, what they will be, if they're recyclable, if they're not recyclable, or, the other thing is, the whole energy thing is evolving daily, so that's something to, I mean, since we don't have a crystal ball, it's a big investment to be banking on that it's going to continue to do what it's going to do. I would say it probably is, because solar's probably been around longer than the wind and some of the other stuff, but a lot of the numbers that we're banking on need to hold true under those conditions that it continues to say as it is. I would say there's probably a good chance it is, but once again, you're gambling a little bit there with that. Those are the biggest. The debt service is probably one of the biggest things. Is I want to just caution the debt service and the payback time to make sure that those numbers ring true, because I would hate to have that not happen as it was, and then we still have to pay for it, and we still own it, and we still have to take care of it. And then yes, our residents don't want to have another rate increase. I mean, it's scary enough having a huge plant expansion as it is, and especially those numbers came in much higher than we had anticipated also. So, and that's the other thing too. Hopefully these companies that are projecting the cost, you know, I don't want there to be any surprises there in the bidding process of getting those, you know, because that has to include not only the solar itself, but the groundwork, any type of engineering and everything too. So, you know, hopefully they know, and we have to bid at prevailing wage, which I think most of them know that have been talking to. So as long as all those numbers are true and we don't jump into it and then just like with the solar plants, oh, it's another 3,000 or, you know, $3 million versus what we had thought. But so that's why, you know, we're taking the time, a lot of the, you know, we, you know, continue the discussion, you know, because Max felt strongly about, you know, come up with the other solution, you know, to purchase. And so, yeah, we just want to lay it all out on the table so that everybody has all the information, and hopefully can, as we always do, hopefully make the best decision that we can for the village. So
Can I interject something? I mean, of course, I gotta go along with Max now. I don't want to hurt anything out or anything.
maybe they're nice to each other, so they gotta be careful.
That being said, and using an analogy Tammy had, where you, again, I'm not a gambler, but I kind of feel like under the circumstances, the environment right now, we'd be playing with house money by the federal government and the state. And it's like, as long as they're throwing it at it, we might well take advantage of it. I think it's going to evolve. There's going to be panels that's going to last longer. I mean, there's all kinds of read that. I think it would be more advantageous in the long run to go ahead and look at buying it in lieu of the PPA.
Yeah, and I was gonna throw out a couple other red flags we had. So the 5.4 cents we start at goes up 2% every year. That continues to go up.
3%.
Oh, and no matter what Ameren's rate does, okay, so if we would ever surpass Ameren's rate,
You can't get out.
you can't get out of it, you're locked in. 25 years, you don't know where that company is gonna be to, you know, supposedly take it away or whatever. They could be out of business, long gone. The other thing is, if we could pay it off in 5 years, then we're not paying for it for 25 years. Because they said it's based on the amount of energy that produces. That is not the same as the energy that Ameren gets. They're charging us what that solar produces. So if it would ever come a day, I hope it never happens, but I'll throw it out there, that Ameren would say, we're no longer doing this project, whatever, are we still getting charged for what that produces and we're paying our Ameren bill? You don't know, because that was how they stated it to me, and Art was, you're paying on what it produces, not for what you're saving through Ameren. You're paying us 5.4 cents a kilowatt hour on what it's producing, which goes up 3% every year. For 25, actually it's 30 years, I think, isn't it, Joe? But we have.
They had it was projected 25, but all the written agreements said 20,
Yes.
20 or
30.
30. And then all these since then, like I said, I looked at the panels and all that, the different one. I'd just like to see us have a little more control of that and have the possibility.
If in 5 years it's paid for and then it all goes.
Well,
Heck,
I mean,
we didn't save anything, so we didn't lose anything.
You reduce your bill approximately 40%, 45%. If you buy it, you're still gonna have a bill, but you're gonna reduce it 95%. So if once the plant's paid for, I mean, I looked at, and I don't, we could direct it just like that. If after it's paid for, we could put that directly towards the sewer, you know, like that. I mean, you can't go ahead and offset a lift station that's the other side of town, but you can go ahead and offset all the operating costs right there, which you just heard. We just approved that it's going to have increased electrical demands like that, which Max had a good question. Would we better to go ahead and be totally electric? I think you have the option, put it gas, and if you need to, if electric is a better option down the road, then so be it. That way you've got options. But I just think under the current climate, I think we'd be better off purchasing. But read it, make your
Yeah, I
own
mean,
mistake.
you have to make your own decision.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give you the best. knowledge I can give you. I have no skin in the game.
Yeah.
You sure?
Well, I have a little bit. Through the village, I do.
Incentive question.
Are we gonna have a presentation in January? Hopefully. At the first meeting in January.
Well, I was gonna have both of the two people proposing these agreements be on Zoom at the very least,
Okay.
but I think sometimes it's better if you all ask people questions in a more of like a one-on-one or a small group setting too, which is why I offered that.
Yeah.
I've
submitted my question to you, you already know that.
Yeah, and so but if anybody else, I mean, I'm trying to just help the whole group as well. If somebody's got questions, I'm happy to either set that up or get your questions answered. But I was gonna have them come in here because there's a certain level of this that I can't answer, which is why, we've asked for some help breaking this down, just to, hopefully make it a little bit easier to digest, because it is a little, in the weeds type of, topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, as of now, the incentives are not going away, right? I mean, they make it sound like.
We locked it in and it'll be what they're gonna be, but yeah.
You do live in the state of Illinois.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not- right. They're gonna run out of our money eventually.
Art doesn't mind you sharing the questions and answers to his questions with us. I would appreciate that.
And if anybody else.
Right.
I'm not sure what you have.
Yes, I'd like to.
I'd share it with you now, but I think it would be more applicable
Yeah.
if you look at the
Yeah.
documentation and see how those apply, and you can build other questions all
I
that.
agree.
And then besiege Joe with that, because he's always warm and fuzzy. Those questions.
Yeah. So I will send those out, so.
All right, in your packet, the administrator and staff report is in for you to review. Joe, do you have anything to add to either one of those?
No, but I will say that the Public Works Department worked with Cascota and they got the new the lift station that was approved as part of the VERF fund. So the one on Third Street was replaced, so that's one of our most important ones. It services all of what I've heard it referred to as Vinyl Village, basically, so it's important. And so just to remind you, when you approved the VERF, over an 8-year period, all 4 of our lift stations will be totally replaced and upgraded, so
And I think the one on Third Street was the one that has given them the most
yes.
issues over time, so it'll be a good one. Plus it's on my street, so it's good to have that one fixed now.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. There was during the storms, it was particularly bad and there was emergency call outs for it. And so it was overdue. And it kind of speaks to, you want to try to replace some of these critical pieces of equipment before they die. Because it took us 5 months from getting it built to delivered to installed. So once it dies on you, you're subject to a lot of expensive emergency call outs and things like that, so.
And I think we band-aid that one over a long period of time, so it was definitely a good thing to get done, so. Village attorney, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I've got a presentation I'd like to make.
Almost good.
I'm done with my presentation.
All right, mayor's report, I just want to, once again, throw out a very big thank you. We've had 3 pretty large events here in the last 2 weekends. The tree lighting was a success. Even though the tree, keeping it straight is gonna be a challenge for the next couple of weeks, because it keeps wanting to lean and the wind keeps blowing anyway. But I mean, if the wind would keep switching directions, maybe it would eventually be straight, but anyway. But I do want to thank all those that were involved. We put, Ashley put out a nice thank you thing that we put together. The St. Joe High School chorus, I think really added a nice touch to the event. We had a great turnout last weekend, the Holly Jolly at the fire department and the parade were both very successful, well attended by the community, which and I heard people talking at all the events and then have heard after the fact that I think the community really appreciates those things. And I think it really brings community together. And I even had someone point out to me after the Christmas tree light, and it's like, because they've heard me say, I'm working for that Hallmark moment, that's why I keep watching Hallmark shows and we keep, doing more home. And they're like, that Christmas tree lighting was pretty dang close to it. So it was very small town, and I think even with the Holly Jolly and stuff, it's, it's a small community and a big event, and it was well attended, and I think everybody appreciates that. So I do want to thank the Public Works guys for being patient with my constant, hey, there's a bow flying off the pole and different things too. So they've done a good job making our downtown look really festive. So want to thank that. So now, Board of Trustees, do you got anything to add this evening, or
Just for Nora, tonight's the last night for
yes,
sign up.
have one more big event on
Yeah.
Saturday with
To get the swag, you can sign up in person the day of, but tonight at midnight, pulling the plug for online
yeah,
registration.
and I think that's going to be a great thing too. I mean, if you've never attended it
Oh, it's
or
fun.
participated, even just watching it is spectacular.
You go to sign up.
Just Google St. Joe, Santa Monica. And then I did hear that the movie they filmed here in town had the Santa Run in it.
Oh, does
But
it? Oh.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I recall that, because I did see the movie when Good Shane aired it, and I think I do recall that. Yeah. So, and that is on YouTube if whoever wants to watch that. So anything else from the trustees?
I just want to say real quick, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but Experience Champagne, I don't know if I'm saying that right, whatever, it used to be the Champagne. Whatever. I did see where they posted like the parade.
Okay, I did see
I
that
didn't know if
too.
you saw that or
Yeah.
not, because I had never really
She
seen
was
it.
pretty good about promoting the Santa Run, but I don't know if she reached out.
And I heard you on WDW. Too.
I want that Boy Scout night.
Yeah.
Got some somewhere.
Did you send it to them? Did you send the Santa the 5K run into?
I don't, James always knows my wife, and she
Oh.
always contacts us. And I don't think she did this year, but we did make the book last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, if that, like I said, there's still some goodies here. I said, grab, and Mark brought some yummy Fannie Mae. So please grab something on your way out, and everybody have a great Christmas, and we will see you in the new year. So,
There's a candy chart on there, so Max won't be poking the hole.
that. I'm a poker. I'm not better. I'll take a little knife sometimes, then it looks a little better with finger poke, but yeah. So anyway, so someone needs to make a motion and.
Motion.
Oh, no, one more thing. Everybody has one here. Our guys made the front cover of the police calendar. Yes, they made the front cover, and also they are July.
Yes.
So they have two
Oh,
pictures.
through that,
So-
that's pretty slick.
And I think Mike got plenty of them, so if anybody would like one, I think we might have a couple extras. So anyway, so that's pretty cool too, so. Make note of that.
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
All right, so who made the motion?
All right.
You already did? All right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you for the goodies.
All right.